Welcome to Plume. So far, we have almost 3/4 of downtown finished, an up-and-coming sports center, some new apartments by the water, and plans to redo this skyscraper right here. But before we get expanding, we are going to focus on finishing this city block, building an interior and roof for one of the last 2 unfinished buildings. So let's get started. Now that we're at the plot, let's assess what we already have. The first thing that we can see is our finished exterior facade, a simple frame and dumpster access at the back of the north building. Another thing to note is that the southmost building already has stair and elevator access, so we only have to worry about that for one building. Alright, now that we quickly know what we're working with, the next thing to do is to plan our space. We already know that these will be apartment buildings based on the exterior and because they're on a residential strip. And because of the height, we don't need extra floors for maintenance, so all the floors can be residential. But the one thing to ask ourselves is, do we want the bottom floors to be residential? As this would boost the amount of people that could live in this building. But let's take a look at the plot. The bottom floor is right on a large outdoor patio, with direct line of sight from the sidewalk and the street. So unless you want a very public life, this will not be residential. So what will be there instead? Because of the space outside, which we can use for outdoor seating, this will either be a restaurant or a cafe. Alright, that concludes the first part of the plan, where the top 3 floors will be residential and the bottom floor will be a restaurant or cafe. So now let's look at the top floors, and specifically, how many apartments there will be. If you look at the building from a bird's eye view, we can see that we're working with either one really long apartment per floor with almost no light, or 2 apartments per floor where one gets all the light and one stays in eternal darkness. So how do we solve this issue? Well, one way would be to put an alleyway behind the buildings, but we can't really do that since the building next to them blocks that off. Or we use the best idea I could think of, where we take a slice out of the back of the building. Now, this may seem crazy, but this does actually make sense. Well, to me at least. So let me explain. By doing this, we can either split the top apartments into 2 per floor, where both get sunlight, or of 1 large apartment per floor, where one half is open space and the other half is bedrooms, and both will get their needed sunlight. But what does this mean for the bottom floor? Well, it means that the restaurant or cafe can have more outdoor seating and have a little hallway on the side where residents can enter and the establishment can throw away their waste. Now that we're done our planning, let's look over everything one last time. The top floors will be apartments, the bottom floor will be a food establishment, and the back will be cut out for much needed sunlight for the restaurants and apartments. Alright, now that we know what the plan is, let's get building. First things first is the exterior. Since most of it was already done, all I needed to do was punch out a hole in the back of the building and copy the facade from the front to the back. And that's the exterior done, minus the roof of course. The next thing was figuring out how many apartments fit on each floor. So I messed around for a while just seeing what each layout looked like. And this is what I decided. The middle floors would have 2 apartments with 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. And on the other hand, the top floor would be a penthouse having 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Alright, let's start the actual building now. I spent a lot of time messing around with color and where each room would go, but I decided on a dark floor and a light gray ceiling, which would contrast well with the black walls. For the bedroom, I placed it farthest away from the entrance, so the open space would be the first thing that you walked into. I placed the dining table farther away so it's more private for anyone viewing from the door, like a delivery driver. And the kitchen and dining space were right next to the window, as I personally love doing my dishes with the view and eating with the view. And I'm sure you'd also agree. Finally, there's the living room, which I put away from the light so there wouldn't be as much glare on the TV. Also, I recommend placing the sofa away from the main space, as then you are more immersed into what you are watching. Midway through the build, I did put the roof in so I could see what the spaces looked like better, and so I could plan the lighting. The lighting isn't very complex, as I just placed light blocks into the ceiling, other than the kitchen where I did have some pendants hanging from the ceiling. But now that we finished the space, let me show you around and explain what I did a little better. So walking up the stairs here, you can see where the elevator is. But let's head inside. You can immediately see the space here. The lights on the ceiling, the cute little dining table in the kitchen, and also the view from the front door I was talking about. On your left, you can see the living space. And those shelves shouldn't be white. But you can see how the floor separates the space here, and how facing the wall gives a lot more immersion compared to facing the open space. But let's explore more. Heading through this door is the bedroom. I let the natural light fill the space, and I added shelves on the side that gives room for the doors below. And now let's head through this door, into the bathroom, with a large shower and open space. You can also see the flooring at work here, as the vibe is totally different. And I don't know why I was spinning those. And okay, thank you, oldie. But let's head back into the open space, where you may have noticed this little opening here. If we head into this room, we can see a laundry and storage room, which is a nice amenity for any apartment building. Alright, that concludes the tour of the lower apartment, but let's get back to building. The next thing I did was simply copy, flip, and paste the apartment onto the other side. After that, it was just a matter of copying and pasting the floor up. And now, we get to the penthouse. The penthouse is going to take up the whole upper floor, meaning it is going to be 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. But now the question is, where do we place the bedrooms? For this, we actually need to look at the location of the building, and specifically where it is facing. This building is facing east, where the sun rises. And what we are going to do is place the main space on the east side of the building, so it will be warm in the morning and cool in the afternoon, meaning the bedrooms will go on the west side. So let's build this thing. Now that you've seen the time lapse, let me explain what I did here. The main idea for this interior was flow. And what I mean by that is how you get around the apartment. I placed the bathrooms on this bottom part here, so that when walking around you have this nice path through the entire apartment. You will also notice the apartment is almost like a yin-yang symbol when it comes to closed and open space. Other than the flow of the apartment, I added some unique wall decorations using trapdoors, which makes the apartment feel more modern. Alright, I'd say that wraps up the apartments. And I did change this entrance after recording to not be open, as that will improve safety and comfort for the residents. But now that we're done with the apartments, we get to work on the bottom floor. The bottom floor was very simple, since I only really needed to make 4 spaces: the entrance, the indoor eating space, the outdoor eating space, and the back room. And I'm going to skip quickly through this with some time lapses, as it's not very interesting. This building is finally done. It has a nice restaurant on the bottom floor, 4 apartments, and 1 penthouse. If you made it this far into the video, please comment the chemical forming of glass shown on screen, and have an amazing day. Goodbye!